I competed in the largest reality show ever, hosted by Mr. Beast. During Beast Games, I battled 2,000 other contestants for millions of dollars in cash prizes. My experience was wild, and that doesn't even include the lawsuits and scandals. And for the record, I was not a part of that, which means I can talk about it. I didn't just survive, I had to outsmart and form alliances with people I would have never expected, like a 38-year-old military vet and that couple you see in those Jubilee videos. In this video, I'm gonna take you behind the scenes of the most intense game show ever created. From the craziest moments that you've never heard of, to the strategies that kept me in the game. And yes, even the stuff Mr. Beast doesn't show you, this is my experience on Beast Games. The intro of this video is filmed at 2 a.m. and we had already been trapped inside Allegiant Stadium for about 12 hours. When they flew us out into Vegas, they didn't tell us we were gonna be trapped in here. They didn't say anything. Even when we left the hotels and bussed over to the stadium, wearing black trash bags to cover up our outfits, they still didn't tell us where we were going. It was all super secret. I literally had no idea what we were signing up for. They just dropped us off. I applied for the show after watching a Colin and Samir episode with Jimmy talking about Beast Games.
It's gonna be the largest game show in history, with the most contestants any game show's ever had, with the largest cash prize in history.
I had to send in a video saying why I think I should be on the show, and I also had to answer a ton of questions like, would I be willing to be buried alive? Or would I be willing to go to outer space? Little did I know that I'd be trapped in this football stadium for the next 4 days without ever changing my clothes. Ew. It literally felt like the pandemic all over again, or like how I act when a new Zelda game comes out. Anyways, as soon as we got into the football field, we noticed those giant pillars to the side of the stadium like right away. At first, a few people thought maybe we had to climb the ropes to get to the top, but then Jimmy said drop the curtains. We saw these 10,000 pound boulders, and we all knew right away that we needed to lift these boulders to the top as fast as possible.
Drop the curtains!
Before everything even began, I had already formed my alliance. Me and these 9 other people had already met on the airplane on the way into Vegas before the show even started. We all decided before we even got into the stadium that we were gonna work together for as long as possible. And let me tell you, the trauma bonding that the 10 of us experienced during the filming of the show has all made us extraordinarily close. Me and these 9 other people are like family now. They have become some of my best friends, which is weird because I would have never talked to any of these people if it wasn't for Beast Games. I'm 37 years old and 3 of these people hadn't even turned 21 yet. The only way I would have maybe met some of these people is if I asked them to babysit my kids. And I'm pretty sure I would go to jail if I asked my babysitter to hang out afterwards. The ages in my alliance ranged from 19 to 38 years old. Most of us had very little in common, but once the game started, none of that mattered. We were all forced to work together as equals. And those people are Drew, Vanessa, JT, Justin, Ryan, Madison, Kyla, John Eric, and Gage. So make sure to root for them in the show. So the 10 of us knew we all needed to lift this boulder as fast as possible. We all decided to spread out and recruit the strongest people we could find. And to tell you the truth, that backfired pretty quickly. First off, it was becoming apparent that all the strongest people in the stadium were grouping together. Everybody wanted to be a part of the strongest team. So when we had to choose our jerseys, which was yellow, hundreds of people were trying to grab our jerseys at the exact same time. It was like a bunch of pigeons trying to fight for the last piece of bread. It created a very ruthless and egocentric team later on. I'll talk about that in a minute. After a lot of screaming and unorganized pushing, the 10 people from my group, along with 390 pigeons, worked together to pull this rope. This went way faster than all of us imagined. And our strategy of finding the strongest people in the stadium was not working, because when we looked up to see how we were doing, we were tied for last place. 3 other teams had already made it to the top and we were falling way behind. After a few seconds, we pulled ourselves together and we barely made it to the top. Everyone was celebrating like we had just won the entire show, but the reality is we just got second to last place. At this point, it was probably like 6 o'clock in the morning. We were so tired. We were so hungry. We didn't know when we were gonna eat, and we also didn't know when we were sleeping. But luckily, after the first challenge, they gave us food. And let me tell you, this food was mostly edible. The entire time that we were locked in that stadium, they only gave us 2 different meals. One of them was boiled chicken, undercooked quinoa, and a tiny amount of steamed vegetables, all put together in this like microwavable TV style dinner thing. And then the other meal was half a cup of cold oatmeal, a cold hard-boiled egg, and then a tiny amount of vegetables that was also cold. And we never knew which one we were gonna get. Sometimes it was the boiled chicken one, and sometimes it was the cold oatmeal one. Those like little salt and pepper packets you get in those like plastic utensils were like pure gold at the time. Sometimes I wanted that salt and pepper more than I wanted the $5 million. But honestly, it all felt like it was part of like this mental game. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but it definitely helped push contestants out of the game, because you could leave whenever you wanted. So some people just couldn't take the food or stress or anxiety or whatever, and they would just exit out that red door. And the whole time we were there, tons of people were leaving that red door.
And some people chose to go home early.
It really is my time to step out. 24 hours, I did it. I did a day.
At least they got to walk away with $2,000, which might be a big brain move because these trials are only going to get more intense.
Every single time we ate, me and my alliance would always sit in front of this hot dog stand called Neon Dog. So after a while, we just started calling ourselves the Neon Dogs. And oh my God, I wish that place was open. I would have loved a hot dog or like a bag of chips or like a teaspoon of ketchup. Literally anything other than cold oatmeal and boiled chicken. After we ate, they sent us back down to the football field to sleep. And they didn't even tell us what time it was. They just handed us a sleeping bag and said, sleep anywhere on the field. They also gave us toiletry bags. The toiletry bags came with a toothbrush, toothpaste, a sleeping mask, and deodorant wipes. Everybody already smelled terrible, and those deodorant wipes did absolutely nothing. Honestly, I think it just wiped our deodorant off and just made everybody else smell worse. We also never changed our clothes. I changed my socks and underwear one time in the 4 days that we stayed there. Everybody smelled like hard-boiled eggs and oatmeal the entire time. But honestly, most people just kind of got used to it. We all picked a random spot on the football field to sleep, and since humans are tribal by nature, all the colored teams slept next to each other. So me and the Neon Dogs all slept in a big group next to the yellow team, and then pink, green, and orange also slept in big groups next to each other.
We ride together, we sleep together.
We would always sleep during the day and then film challenges at night. Also, we didn't have pillows, so most of us just use our shoes as pillows. They say that memories are linked to smell, and let me tell you, I will remember those nights for the rest of my life. Around 1,600 sleeping bags filled the entire football field, which kind of felt like prison, except you could leave whenever you wanted, which I think is frowned upon in real prison. They didn't tell us how long we could sleep, but I was laying there for probably about 3 hours and got maybe 20 minutes of actual sleep. You'd think it's because I had shoes for pillows, but the actual reason is because everybody on Yellow Team decided to have an emergency team meeting just 3 hours after we all lay down. So every person on Yellow Team was woken up by a small group of people that walked around saying, emergency team meeting in 15 minutes. That small group of people wanted to talk about what went wrong in the first challenge since, well, we got in 4th place. And that team meeting was an absolute train wreck. When the Yellow Team meeting started, it was chaos. It instantly turned into civil war on the Yellow Team. People were screaming that we needed new leaders, and some people were screaming that we needed no leaders. It was a lot of yelling and disorganization. Everybody wanted to get on the platform and say something, but nobody wanted to listen. And to make things worse, when I looked across the stadium at the other teams, they were all working really well together. They were cheering and laughing together. I wish I was on another team. Yellow Team was like the disorganized villain team. Everybody hated the Yellow Team, including ourselves. But luckily, we didn't have to listen to the screaming for very long because it was time to eat more cold oatmeal. We went back to sit in front of the Neon Dog concession stand and ate our cold oatmeal, hard-boiled egg, and cold vegetables. That hard-boiled egg wrapped in plastic was like the most flavorful thing they gave us. I never thought I'd be so excited for an egg. They would give out Feastables too, and I love Feastables, but there's really only so much chocolate you can eat before feeling really sick. I think we had like 3 meals a day and probably the same amount of chocolate bars, but honestly, I'm not really sure how often we ate because it was really hard to keep track of time. They had clocks set up in some places, but they mostly kept us away from windows, and we obviously didn't have like our phones or watches or anything personal on us. So I almost never knew what time it was, and I even lost track of the days at some point. I don't know if it was intentional, but it all felt very disorienting. Me and my alliance would just be eating or hanging out, and then all of a sudden, it was time for the next challenge. They walked us back down to the football field and we regrouped into our color teams. Everybody on Yellow Team was finally trying to work together. But of course, Jimmy came out and said, for this challenge, you're gonna go against your own team. Then he yelled,
Bring out the briefcases!
Everyone was pretty upset to hear the word briefcase. All the briefcase videos that Jimmy has done in the past all seem very stressful. We assumed we had to like trick or manipulate someone into taking a red briefcase, which would send that person home. and all 10 of us on my alliance did not want to play against each other. My alliance and I were pretty bummed because we assumed we were going to be divided and then we would have to say goodbye to some of us. But luckily, the game was not what we expected. They set up the briefcases and then the first team did the challenge while the rest of us just watched. It took hours to set up and verify the results between each color's team. It must have been like 5 hours before it was finally yellow team's turn to go. And for some reason, we were the only team that Jimmy did not let see the briefcase map. Yay, yellow team. He said it was the same map as green team, but none of us were paying attention. So we had no idea where any of the briefcases were. It was also like 5 o'clock in the morning at this point, so we all felt very tired and defeated. Luckily, as we were literally walking up to start, a girl from green team came up to me and was like, "Need help? I know where a ton of green briefcases are." She told us a spot where like 6 green briefcases were lined up right next to each other. There was literally no time to think, so we took her word for it and went right to that spot. Jimmy let us see the map for just a few seconds and she was right. We were standing right in front of a bunch of green briefcases. Thank you again to the random girl from green team. You literally helped keep us alive. JT from my alliance noticed that no 2 red briefcases were ever touching side by side. They would only touch diagonally. So as long as you knew where a red briefcase was, you would know the surrounding ones would be green. Jimmy said go and we sprinted to our cases. As soon as we grabbed our case, we tried to help everybody else around us to make sure that they also did not grab a red briefcase. Somehow me and the rest of the Neon Dogs made it to the next round yet again. Everybody on yellow team who won was cracking open water and spraying everything in sight, including the cameraman and yeah, also their cameras. Yellow team was again super annoying, but we were all just so excited to make it to the next round. After the challenge, we all celebrated with another piece of flavorless boiled chicken and headed back down to the football field to sleep in the daytime. I only got 3 hours of sleep that night, but it honestly felt amazing. Not everybody was feeling good though. Over the next few days, a bunch of people started exiting through the red door, including number 42, who was on Jimmy's 1 through 100 video. I met dozens of other people from older Mr. Beast videos that were competing with us. There were also a bunch of TikTok stars that I didn't recognize. I don't know. I didn't know who any of these people were. I'm an old person. But a lot of them were really cool, and a lot of them were actually still in the competition at this point. For all of us who were still in the game, it was time for the next challenge. We ate our delicious cup of half-cold oatmeal and headed back down to the football field for the flag challenge. This was the most stressful challenge by far. Make sure to subscribe because I'm diving deeper into what really happened and things get uncomfortable.